Good evening, folks. This is the Factivist Report for Sunday, the 12th of June. We are going to continue the discussion of guns in America, a little bit of history, a little bit of reality, and a little bit of a discussion about the bipartisan agreement that was reached in the Senate today, and why we should not be satisfied with it, because really it's just window dressing. For me, it's just window dressing. It does not address what really needs to be done. And you know what? I'm going to say this again and again and again and again. That is not going to happen until the Democrats have a bigger majority. I'm sure they're not satisfied with this. I certainly know, given the bill that the House passed, that the House isn't going to be happy with this. And, you know, God only knows what happens after they, you know, get this thing through the Senate. They're going to have to reconcile the two bills. And you know what? I honestly don't see it happening. But without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dave.
And before I go into my intro, I want to say that even if any kind of legislation passes, we have a Supreme Court case that may nullify some of the things that they're trying to get through, and I'll go through that in a minute. I have heard people say, "Hey, we need to do something, or we're going to become the Wild Wild West." Well, let me tell you a little something. We're worse. Actually, legally, we're worse, and I'll go through some of it. And why is that? The NRA may not be as powerful as they were in the past, but they're still driving very important Supreme Court cases. They're driving this case that's coming before New York now. And also they drove a 2008 case, which drastically changed the meaning of the Second Amendment to include the rights of individuals. That was not initially intended. We'll go through it in a little bit, but let's start this. What are we going to start it with? We're going to start it with the NRA. So this is a historical perspective and analysis by Anne Gerhardt and Chris Alcantara. This was a few years ago, May 29th, 2018, but this is a historical piece. And I put this in here for the graphic display of that timeline of where we're at. Initially, the NRA supported some gun legislation until about 1968. So 1934, National Firearms Act, imposing a tax of $200 on machine guns, sawed-off shotguns, and silencers. By the way, that tax has not increased in 84 years. It was NRA supported. So that was because of public outcry over Tommy gun wars, prohibition, all of that kind of stuff. Federal Firearms Act in 1938 required manufacturers, importers, and dealers to obtain a federal firearms license and to keep customer records, also having the support of the NRA. In 1967, we have the Mulford Act. This was in response to the Black Panthers patrolling the city streets to protect against police brutality, and they were protesting on the streets. So the NRA supported that law to protect people from the scary black people. Let's just call it like it is. Yeah. And would give its first endorsement for president to the governor who had signed it, Ronald Reagan.
And by the way, I would like to say that the Black Panthers never walked into a school and shot anything up, by the way, just so you know.
Right. Well, they did, but you did have black activists shot in their apartment homes or in their homes. Right. Was that Bobby Seale? Yeah. So Gun Control Act of 1968. This is where the NRA started to exert its power. Turbulent aftermath of the assassination of three national leaders, which was Robert F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy. Rising fears over race-related violence, the White House pushed for a national gun registry and licenses for all gun carriers. The NRA blocked that. The law that did pass restricted mail-order sales, barred the mentally ill and drug addicted from owning guns, and required serial numbers on all weapons. You notice we have a ghost gun problem now, so that didn't last. In signing the new law, President Lyndon Johnson excoriated the NRA, saying the voices that blocked these safeguards were not the voices of an aroused nation. They were the voices of a powerful gun lobby.
He's right.
He's right.
I didn't agree much with him either, but he was right.
1986, the Firearms Owners Protection Act. After years of lobbying by the NRA, which donated $1.4 million to congressional candidates in 1984, Congress rolled back the 1968 restrictions and limited inspections of gun dealers to one per year. So we have the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. 7 years after it was introduced, the bill became law, mandating a federal background check on firearms purchasers, creating a new electronic system, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. It went online in 1998, named for Press Secretary James Brady, who was shot in the head, survived, but shot in the head by John Hinckley when he tried to assassinate Reagan. 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. This was the ban on semi-automatic weapons. And I do have a little bit more on this. I have an article in here. This is a sticking point for a lot of people because people are saying that an assault weapons ban, semi-automatic weapons ban, will not be effective because look at what happened in 1994. 1994, the assault weapons ban was neutered. There were things taken out of it. There were holes in it because it wasn't as extensive as the Democrats wanted it to be. So to say that an assault weapons ban or a semi-automatic weapons ban, let's be perfectly clear, can't be effective, we don't know because it wasn't allowed to be effective. So 2004.
We did show that timeline last week.
We did. And
it did not stop it. Nothing is going to stop anything 100%. But the notion that anybody's rights are being violated if they're
is absurd.
Carry a weapon that is designed to mow people down is absolutely fucking ridiculous. It is what I would call a deflection move. All right. Nobody's rights are being stopped here. And if we can stop some of this mass killing, and we certainly can with the use of this kind of a ban, let's not say that it doesn't work. It did work. It didn't stop anything 100%. No. Medicines don't stop anything 100%. This won't stop anything 100%, but it's got to stop. We got to stop some of this somewhere.
Well, to say that, it's not completely effective. It's not complete. Well, first off, allow the ban to be full and not to take some out, and then give full credence to it. And not allow modifications. That was a big part of it too. They did not ban modifications of weapons. So, but it did stop some, or it did decrease the number of people who were killed. The argument was, well, it didn't stop mass shootings. There were still the same number of shootings. Well, fewer people died, and that's what the whole purpose of it was in the first place. And that's why I'm calling for this type of legislation again.
A full assault weapons ban.
Yes, and not just ARs, by the way.
And
Everybody's,
and not just a list of the weapons that the NRA approves as banned. Okay, a full assault weapons ban.
So this happened right after the assault weapons ban expired, which is one of the worst pieces of legislation in regards to gun control. President GWB signed the bill granting gun manufacturers immunity from civil lawsuits filed over crimes committed with firearms. The NRA called it a vitally important first step towards ending the anti-gun lobby's shameless attempts to bankrupt the American firearms industry through reckless lawsuits. Now, this is not just the manufacturers, but the people who sell the guns. If you sell a gun to someone who shouldn't have one, you should be liable.
So let me get this right. In the state of Texas, you can sue a doctor for performing an abortion, but you can't sue a firearms manufacturer for selling somebody a gun that shouldn't have a gun.
Correct.
Yeah.
A woman can have a miscarriage and she can be imprisoned.
Right.
Now, 2013, there was another assault weapons ban proposed. This is where that stops, and that went nowhere because Obama didn't have a majority. So here are there are several here. Here it is. There are several articles here in regards to the history of gun laws, but I thought this was interesting. From the 1700s through the 1800s, or the so-called slave codes, and after slavery was abolished in 1865, blacks were prohibited from owning guns. So I'm not advocating for that, obviously, but at the same time, despite images of the Wild West from movies, cities in the frontier often required visitors to check their guns with the sheriff before entering the town. In October of 1876, Deadwood, Dakota Territory passed a law stating no one could fire a gun without the mayor's consent. A sign in Dodge City, Kansas in 1879 read, "The carrying of firearms is strictly prohibited." The first law passed in Dodge City was a gun control law that read, "Any person or persons found carrying concealed weapons in the city of Dodge or violating the laws of the state shall be dealt with according to the law." We are not in the Wild West. We are worse.
You're worse.
And as a matter of fact, we have a Supreme Court case looking to allow concealed carry pretty much for everybody. And I'll get into that. Now, I have several here. So let's basically, it is not contested that the intention of the Second Amendment was not to grant rights to the individual, but to allow the forming of a militia to protect itself from a corrupt government. That was the point of the Second Amendment.
Right.
Everybody is screaming Second Amendment rights. I have a right to defend myself. Blah, 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 blah. That's coming from a 2008 case, just so you know.
Yeah, it's not part of the original Second Amendment.
Correct. So this is how the NRA rewrote the Second Amendment. So Chief Justice Warren Burger, okay, he wasn't a liberal.
He was a fucking conservative who was appointed by Richard Nixon, by the way.
Yeah. Described the idea that the Second Amendment gives an individual right to a gun. That's a fraud on the American public. That's what he said that, that opinion is. When he spoke these words to PBS in 1990, the rock-ribbed conservative appointed by Richard Nixon was expressing the long-time consensus of historians and judges across the political spectrum. 25 years later, Burger's view seems as quaint as a powdered wig. It really isn't, because that's what the purpose of the Second Amendment was, to grant people the right to form a militia.
And not to form a militia to storm the Capitol to reinstate a despot either.
That's actually the exact corrupt government that they're talking about. This is just an explanation of what the 1994 assault weapons ban was, the pros of it, the cons of it, some of the weaknesses of it, and why it ended. And the basically the political pressure that was put on people to end it. So when you're saying that the Supreme Court protects the rights of everyone, well, the Supreme Court protected the right of Dick Heller. He was a security guard involved in the 2008 District of Columbia versus Heller case. The District of Columbia stated that you couldn't have a weapon in your house for self-protection. And Heller took them to court and won in the Supreme Court. I don't have a problem with the outcome of the case, but it should not have been tied to the Second Amendment. By doing that, it expanded the meaning of the Second Amendment in the Constitution, and gun lobbyists knew exactly what they were doing.
By the way, Dave, I don't think the article's in here, but I'd like to mention right now,
Yeah.
who was the guy that said, who was the justice that said to eliminate the Second Amendment?
I have that. That was John Paul Stevens.
Right.
Okay. I didn't want to put this in the body, but yes, I almost put it in. I'm not advocating for this now because right this second, it is too dangerous to even consider that.
I agree.
To open up a constitutional convention with the power that the right has at this moment would be disastrous. But he did say that the Constitution, the Second Amendment of the Constitution is outdated. And we've mentioned that before, by the way. So the Giffords lawsuit, Gabrielle Giffords was part of an assault. She was shot during a meeting outside, I think it was a mall, shopping mall. What was it? Was it Arizona? It was Arizona, 2011. This just goes into, very briefly, how Heller shaped Second Amendment law. So the first case, I'm only talking about DC versus Heller right now. McDonald versus City of Chicago does expand rights a little bit, but District of Columbia versus Heller, that decision created a precedent. in regards to the Second Amendment. In 2008, the Supreme Court ruled on the Second Amendment for the first time in almost 70 years after Dick Heller sued the District of Columbia over its ban on handguns in the home. The rule stated in Heller's favor, affirming an individual rights to keep handguns in the home for self-defense. This is Scalia's opinion in regards to District of Columbia versus Heller. Like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatsoever purpose. Well, that might change, but again, the Second Amendment was never designed
First of
for
all,
individual use.
that case as it was written, as he won, was the right to keep a handgun in
Your home.
I would settle for that,
Yes.
okay? It's not a right to carry an assault weapon around the streets with you. It's not the right to carry an assault weapon or have an assault weapon in your home. It was the right to carry a fucking handgun.
If
Handgun.
if I was the other side, I would have settled and allowed him. If I was DC, I would have allowed it, because taking this to the Supreme Court and tying it to the Second Amendment, this is what happened.
Right.
Okay. Now everybody's screaming about their Second Amendment rights. You know, you have someone with a criminal record or a mental health record, or someone's deemed unsafe due to a red flag law. Second Amendment, Second Amendment, Second Amendment. Every single time. And just to put this in perspective, this man was a security guard. So it's not unreasonable to allow him to keep a gun in his home. What's unreasonable is to tie this to the Second Amendment, because that was never the intention.
Can you scroll down a little for a minute?
Yes.
All right. See that right there? Prohibit firearm possession by dangerous people. Forbid firearm possession in sensitive places such as schools and government buildings.
Yes.
Impose conditions on the commercial sale of firearms. Get a grip, people, okay? This has been twisted to serve the gun industry and the NRA and the people who were gun nuts in America. All right. This is what this was twisted to do. This did not make, you know what? The notion that we did this for personal safety is a fucking joke when we have all of these killings going on. It's a joke.
You know what? I'm going to put the John Paul Stevens thing in here if I can find it, because now that might not be here. Oh wait, it's in the other browser. Forget it. So now, New York judge's gun permit denials trigger big Supreme Court case. Two middle-aged white men decided to appeal a case written in 1913 in 1913 New York law that limits concealed carry licenses to people who can show a proper cause for having one. Like someone who works at a bank that has to carry a lot of cash and, drop it off or whatever. That's what that's designed for. So that's the same thing. Justices took up an appeal by two gun owners and the New York affiliate of the NRA, an influential gun rights group closely aligned with the Republicans. of a lower court hearing ruling, throwing out their challenge to the restrictions on concealed handguns outside of the home. So you had the Heller decision that said, no. What do you think they're going to do with a 6-3 supermajority? They're going to decimate potentially that precedent. What do you think of that pollster there?
That's sweet.
Supreme Court poised to issue a ruling in a New York gun rights case that will likely expand the scope of protections of the Second Amendment efforts affords individual gun owners who want to carry a gun outside of their residence. The biggest question in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin may not be whether a majority of justices strike down the state's century-old handgun licensing requirement, but how far that majority goes in signaling that other licensing measures created by government officials are now constitutionally suspect.
Great.
Officials prohibit handguns in courtrooms and schools. What about college campuses or hospitals? When the court heard oral arguments in November, the 6-member conservative majority seemed far more interested in exploring the contours of the expanded Second Amendment than in whether or not it ought to be expanded. So be very afraid. And this is going on right in the middle of a mass shooting, spike. Let's say spike. I don't really want to say spree, but yeah, spike.
I'll say spree.
Gun rights, again, same thing. The proper cause law. People applying for a license to carry a concealed weapon outside the home must show that they have a concrete need for self-defense or proper cause. The licenses are restricted to those going hunting, target practice, and those who can demonstrate a need for self-protection outside of the home, such as bank messengers carrying cash or store owners who want to keep a gun in their store for self-protection. So I'm going to, and I'll add, Deb, I'll add that John Paul Stevens story. I have it. The point being that justices historically, prior to this court, have stated that what's going on now with the Second Amendment is ludicrous. And John Paul Stevens, another conservative justice, said, if you want to end this nonsense, get rid of the Second Amendment. That way, it's not like all the problems will go away, but that way it will allow for laws to be put in place without all of these obstructions. So, for those of you who believe that the Supreme Court is the end-all be-all. And by the way, I'm tired of hearing about, it's my Second Amendment right.
Yeah, I'm sick of hearing it too. Other people have rights to stay alive, like children.
Right.
They have a
David
right to
Cecily said it. Yep. Absolutely. So I thought this was an interesting list. The worst Supreme Court decision since 1960. Every single one of these decisions, in one way or another, taking the rights away in some way. One case or one decision allows for the sterilization of people that they don't deem are worthy or capable of birthing a child.
You mean
those
like
were
people?
Well, mental deficiencies. They went for mental deficiencies, but sodomy laws. They have Bush versus Gore in here. They have Citizens United in here. They have a horrific sodomy law case in here. Talks about the how did they mention they were that gays and lesbians were not proficient in the law or something. Yeah,
The law.
strangers to the law. Yeah,
Fuck you.
exactly.
Let me just reiterate one other thing.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court can decide they can decide that sterilization should apply for people that they deem to be not suitable to reproduce. Am I right?
Yep.
Right? Yep.
Yep.
But a woman can't decide to end her pregnancy if her child is going to be severely compromised. Am I right? How does
Yep.
how does that work?
Yep.
That doesn't work for me. I can tell you that. Any logical fucking person would question all of this. Now,
So
the problem with the Supreme Court is you can't fucking take it anywhere else after that. So whatever bad decisions they make, and they've made some good, but they've made a lot of bad ones too. Okay? Citizens United was another one. That was what Ruth Bader Ginsburg considered the worst decision that was made by the Supreme Court in all her time there. So, again, doesn't always work out the best for the people.
And there's another bad one coming up. Sonia Sotomayor is becoming the champion of dissenting opinions at this point. The SCOTUS just immunized feds from liability, no matter how egregious the misconduct. And this is Egbert versus Bull. The court ruled that Congress must decide whether the plaintiff can sue the government over alleged violations of his rights. A decision which Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in her dissenting opinions threatens to block nearly all seven civil suits against federal agents. So let me read that again. Congress must decide whether a plaintiff can sue the government over alleged violation of their rights. That politicizes every single civil right claim violation. Everyone.
And this was all part of the fucking plan, I contend. I'm going to say it.
So hold on. I have it in the other. Oh, but most of you guys who watch us, I assume you probably watch and this is Bowers versus Hardwick, by the way. That's the one that was awful. But most of you that watch us probably saw at least the first night of the January 6 hearings. In order to have any of this done, we had any of the people indicted or any substantive change come from this, we have to pressure Merrick Garland, pressure our legislators, vote some of these jackasses out at every opportunity when we see that they were directly involved, and press for Supreme Court reform. And also, what will be needed eventually, in my humble opinion, is reform on the presidential pardon system.
Agreed.
Because you have all of these people who are going to be coming up for 14th Amendment violations for the violation of the Sedition Act. That's a federal crime, and all of those people could be pardoned. The Oath Keeper, the Proud Boy, those leaders, all of them can be pardoned by whatever
Republican president.
Republican, slime ball is going to come out through the ooze, whether it be DeSantis or whoever it is, if they win.
By the
We
way,
should
you see this is not on topic, but I just have to tell you that the Florida GOP had a DeSantis flotilla today in the harbor.
God.
Yeah, it's great to be a dictator in the land of Oz.
One other thing, real quick. Pay attention in the next week or so. Supposedly, the Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood decision will be coming out, or that case that may overturn those will be coming out either Monday or Wednesday. I've heard it may not, but just it's coming soon. Do not pay attention to it.
And by the way, I hear a lot of people out there saying that, Liz Cheney dropped, the information that I forget who the legislator was that actually asked for a pardon, and now everybody's clamoring for them to reveal the names. You know what? Let them go through the process of presenting the fucking evidence. Okay. All right. Let them go through the process. They've been doing this for a year and a half. Okay. Americans are, if nothing else, the instant gratification society. You know what? You all want it so you can fucking post it. That's what the bottom line is. They have evidence. All right. They will present it at a time where it's suitable in the process. Okay. That was the opening televised session. Okay. That was setting the stage. We will get there. Let them do their fucking job. Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, all of those denying can deny all they want, but there's no way that this committee would ever say that unless they had the proof. And by the way, the media's already gone after Lauren Boebert on her request for a pardon, and she deflected, of course.
Right.
So she's not the only one. So that's where we are. Tomorrow morning, sometime between 9:30 and 10 will be the second hearing on the insurrection. Tonight, I am going to be working on the website, and I am going to start working on that section of the website. I am not going to present any final decisions or any final perspectives because we're not there yet. But I am going to present what has been found so far. I'm going to give you links to sites that are tracking this. There is a site called Just Security, and they actually have an evidence tracker that they launched yesterday. So I will make sure there's a link to that. It is incumbent upon all you people to educate yourselves about what happened on January 6, 2021, and understand that if this isn't taken and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, this is a fucking dress rehearsal. This can and will happen again. This was not just a protest. This was not just a one-off. This was a group of people who had the intent to do real harm here, all because some little whiny crybaby couldn't give up his seat, which he legitimately fucking lost by being probably the worst president ever in the history of this country. So everybody needs to wake up. This isn't over. Okay, it isn't over because it happened a year and a half ago. The whole investigation, they have talked to at least, I don't know how many people they've spoken to. I believe they've indicted 800 people so far. They've spoken to thousands of people. They've spent thousands of hours interviewing. They've gone through thousands of pages of emails and documents. And this is what a conspiracy looks like. not a conspiracy theory. In a conspiracy theory, you have no proof of anything. It's a theory. When you have a real conspiracy, you have a paper trail, no matter who the fuck it is or when the fuck it is. They did it Watergate, and they've got it now.
By the way, I'm hearing all sorts of stuff about, people looking for immunity so they can give them bigger information, blah, blah, blah. Again, as Deb said, allow them to do their investigation. What I want to look into is, once the investigation is over, whatever comes of it, the things that the citizens need to do, the things that the citizens need to call for, whether it be the expulsion of people in whatever offices they are. I don't care, from dog catcher up to the Supreme Court, up to, by the way, keeping ex-President Trump from running again, to jailing him. I don't care. Whatever it is.
And by the way, Katie Thomas, she's up to her fucking eyeballs in this. Up to her eyeballs. And I'm going to just say this also. The first thing that was presented to everybody on Thursday night when they televised this, their investigation isn't over. So they're not going to talk to you about anything they don't have in their pocket right now. Nor should they, because that will potentially damage the case further down the road. Their investigation is not over. They're going to be working on this through the summer. Let them do their fucking job. They know what they're doing. Your armchair lawyers, they're all lawyers, okay?
And by the way, again, no Substack nonsense, no calling for this justice to resign, that justice to resign, no calling for, just wait. It's Clarence Thomas. I would love to see Clarence Thomas be forced to resign for several reasons. Yes, he's a right-wing stalwart, fine, but he's also corrupt as all hell. We all know it. However, you have to have concrete reasons for him to leave. You have to have concrete reasons for Kavanaugh to leave or Amy Coney Barrett to leave. You have to show evidence. Well, we all know. That's all well and good, but you need paperwork, a paper trail. And by the way, we will not and forever will not condone violence against anyone, including a Supreme Court justice. Not a billionaire, not a politician, not a Supreme Court justice, nobody. So I don't want to hear that either.
The other thing everybody needs to understand is, if you want to remove a Supreme Court justice, you're going to have to give the Democrats a really big fucking majority. I mean it. I can't say this enough. I don't know what it is that you people don't understand, except that it's become clear to me after watching posts on Twitter and posts on Facebook that people really don't understand how the government works. Okay. And this isn't anything new. This is the way the government has been. All right. Right now we have the right wing taking away our rights using this system. Okay. We need to turn the tables on them using this system. You know what? Trying to fight this outside the system, that was never going to happen. It was never going to work. It was never going to work, okay? We need to now, part of what will happen with the website, by the way, when this goes back up on Monday night, will be a letter to Merrick Garland urging him to make sure that he follows the evidence and does what he needs to do as the highest law enforcement official in the land. All you need to do is download it and sign it, okay? We need to get this done, people. You know what? This needs to come from the people. Let's do it. Same thing with the gun thing. You need to keep pushing on the gun thing. I don't care about the bipartisan settlement here, okay?
Yeah.
Surface scratcher. That's all it is.
Yeah. Now, what I will say, with my experience as a union representative, if you want to write an individual letter to Merrick Garland, the more that he has of those, the more powerful it is. However, do not call for him to indict now, because that's not going to happen.
By the way,
Please do your job, and please, whatever this is, whatever you got to do it.
by the
That's
way,
it.
right now, the Department of Justice is in possession of some of the materials from J6. And it was stated on the Thursday night broadcast that DOJ people, investigators, are going through encrypted mails. Everybody needs to understand that, it's all hands on deck in this, and that includes us too. And that's it. That's what I've got.
Yep.
We done?
We are done,
I'm killing them.
but we're not done.
Right.
We got to keep on this constantly. And I know it's almost like holding grains of sand in your hand. There's a lot of moving parts in this. The gun part is just part of it. The transgender rights is part of it. The voting rights is part of it. The abortion rights are part of it. The January 6th stuff rights are part of it. But this is all about grabbing our power back.
It's all intertwined in the push for an authoritarian government. The guns, the voting restrictions, the going after women's rights, going after gay rights, going after transgender people. All of this is intertwined.
One more I want to mention before we go. This push for violent speech being a First Amendment right, that's another one, because that's intimidation. You don't need a gun where you scare the hell out of somebody. Okay? So, and smearing people online and all that crap. So.
Hate speech isn't free speech, folks.
It's
no matter
not.
what they tell you. All right, gang, I'm shutting it down. We'll be posting this one tomorrow. We'll be posting the short one tonight.